Hey guys, so today I just want to talk about something a little bit more serious and not so much about game dev. So I've got a few plans for the channel and I'm actually just creating this video to get your opinion of what you think I should do. So please, if you can watch the video and just comment below and tell me what you think. So the plans so far is I need to somehow grow the channel. And the reason for that is it's been a pretty slow growth, and it's so far been, I've created 46 videos. I've got 671 subs, and that's for about 1 year of running the channel. So you can see this is extremely slow growth. It's not been phenomenal at all. And I need to now find ways of growing this a little bit quicker, if possible. I've also done some research. This is maybe not as bad as I think it is. It could be a typical growth for the first year, maybe. But there are other channels in my space which are growing a lot quicker than this. So it is starting to just become a bit of a concern for me that I'm not growing fast enough to obtain my goals. So just so you know, what I've been aiming for the first year over here was 10,000 subs, which I'm nowhere near. And I'm actually going to try and aim to get this goal by December of this year. And let's just see what I can do between now and then to pull this off. But I need to talk about what my plans are for the channel and what I think I can do to get this growth. But I also need the opinion of the subscribers to make sure that this is something you'd be interested in seeing, and I'm not going to be, for one, making the current subscribers unhappy by doing this. And maybe there's other options as well of what I can do as well. So I'll discuss that as well in this video, and then we can you can just like thrash it out in the comments section and tell me what you think. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is initially I wanted to create this as a game dev channel. And even though it's the generalist programmer channel, which would have encompassed general dev stuff, I decided that I would create a game dev channel initially because it's a fun way of teaching developers or just teaching people development. And just because it's so multidisciplinary as well, it could be quite interesting, and it could be even more fun because you've got music and you've got graphics, and the programming and the code is very, very different to other disciplines. It's very creative, and that would have made it extremely fun to teach people programming through game dev. So, but now it's starting to become apparent that because of this slow growth, that this isn't sufficient for the goals I have in mind. Now, to give you an idea of what my goals actually are, is I want to, for one, when I started the channel, I wanted to start to put more time into teaching people about game dev and other dev as well. And by doing so, earn a living, which will be able to allow me to work on passion projects. And those could have been game dev, or it could have been software. So this would just allow me to work on interesting projects which I've got ideas for, and then basically do that full time while teaching others about game dev, and maybe even sharing these projects with the community as well. So that's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to create this channel. And then obviously the other reason is a life work balance. So to talk about how I'm going to do this, and this is all dependent on channel growth. So channel growth will be a big factor in being able to do this. So I'm going to eventually be creating more paid courses, and then I will try to monetize the channel through this, and also by selling games and software as well, using the community of the channel and all the other channels that I have, such as my Twitter, etc. So that's the plan on how I will get there. But for that to happen, I need your support and your help to grow the channel. And the only way I can do that is if you can like and sub, and also if you can share the content that I create, and that'll help me grow as well. So let's talk about what I think and what I want to actually start doing and how I want to expand the content of the channel. So there are a few categories of things which I've obviously worked on in my career. And those are basically, I've worked in game dev, I've worked on web, I've worked on mobile applications, I've done desktop, and I've done electronic based development as well. So this is all integrated stuff. And desktop applications, yeah, so there's a whole mode of things that you can do here: mobile apps and mobile games, obviously. And here is just desktop games, desktop mobile games, and web development, so web-based systems, all sorts of things as well. So these are some of the areas I'm thinking of talking about in future on the channel. And this could like branch into thousands of different technologies. So if we look at web alone, there we could look at languages like PHP, Ruby, JavaScript. Could be looking at Rust, which is for WebAssembly. So this is WebAssembly. This is a front end, back end based. And then each of these have frameworks which we can talk about. We could talk about Python over here, which is useful all over. And there are frameworks there as well. So there's Django, there is Flask, there's a whole bunch of frameworks we can talk about on the web. And then of course there are the markup languages, HTML, and styling languages like CSS and saas, and so on as well, which we can look at. So there's just so much we can learn here. Then on mobile, we could be looking at Kotlin as a language, we could be looking at Java as a language, we could be looking at Swift as a language. There is something called Flutter, which uses a language called Dart. There is Ionic. There is Quasar, which is a framework, JavaScript framework. This is TypeScript, if you need to know, and JavaScript over here. There is React Native, which is a JavaScript framework as well. So here we can be looking at mobile development, and then those are some of the options and technologies we could be looking at. So there are quite a few. There's a lot to learn. And then there is desktop, which could be anything. Like there's something called Electron, which is quite interesting, which allows you to create cross-platform desktop apps. There is WPF on Microsoft, which is an XML-based technology. There is Qt as well. which we can use in Python and C++. And there's a couple of others as well. There's something called tkinter, which you can use in Python. It's useful. And then if we look at the electronics, see if we can just erase this. And electronics, there is just so much as well. There is, could be looking at microcontrollers. We could be looking at PLCs, which are programmable logic controllers. Each of them have their own language. These are usually C or C++, sometimes even Python. Can go in here. We've got stuff called instruction list, ladder, and a bunch of other programming languages that you can use in this as well. It'll also include obviously things like wiring and actual electronics based soldering and logic. So a whole bunch of things here. So something that I've missed in my initial discussion is machine learning. So machine learning, we could do things like classification and etc. A whole bunch of stuff. And then artificial intelligence, which I don't actually connect the dots there because artificial intelligence is more around neural nets. And this is more around mathematical models, really. Models, where these are more topologies and structures to be able to achieve neural nets. And there are things like recurrent neural nets, convolutional neural nets. There's a whole bunch of things. And here is also something called genetic algorithms, which is extremely useful in many things. That could be in financial modeling, models. And for a long time, I used this for stock trading, and I think that can be useful to some people as well who are interested in stock trading. And also, you know, image recognition, which basically falls within convolutional neural networks, image recognition. And there will be a whole bunch of languages that we'll use here because Python has something called ML kits, which is sort of a framework library for machine learning, and is TensorFlow, which we can use GPUs to actually train neural networks, which are really awesome. In the game development space, we could be looking at additional things, like we could also be looking at AI, pathfinding, etc. So a whole bunch of knowledge here as well. Then I'm also thinking about looking at some illustration and music as well, because that's part of the game development portion. Music over here. And by no means am I good at any of these, but I think I can give a developer's perspective on both, and how you as a developer can actually achieve decent illustrations and decent music for both your web projects and your game development projects as well. So those are some of the things I want to talk about on the channel as well. And apart from this is I also want to start talking about the business side of things, and that's software as a service. And here we'll look at how we can bootstrap basically businesses using software or even game development. So if you don't know what bootstrapping is, that's basically starting a business with $0 and zero funding. And then also we'll be looking at marketing. And this goes down to sales funnels, selling strategies, etc. Which you want to look at. And apart from software as a service, which is very interesting, especially if you want to now start a business, either in software or actually game development as well. So this also applies to game development, both of these things here. And it could be interesting for you to just get concepts because developers are extremely good at development, but not good at any of these things, or for the most part, not very good at business in general. So I'd like to talk about that as well and my experiences over the years. And finally, the last thing I want to start talking about on the channel is lifestyle. So lifestyle as a developer. So if you're a junior developer now, you are probably in a steep learning curve, so it's really tough to just learn the technical skills at this point. But if you are lucky enough to be in a position where you have an extremely challenging job at the moment, you will probably jump to senior very soon, and you might even skip intermediate. And this is something that happened in my career, luckily. And what you will find is once you hit the senior level, your work-life balance is going to be very different. And the things I want to talk about here is how to handle stress, burnout, and pressure, basically, as a senior dev. And this is quite obvious because once you become senior, clients, companies, whatever your scenario may be, they'll become more dependent on your skills and on you as a person, because you will start to not just obtain a technical skill, but you will also have the business knowledge of the given space, which is difficult to find along with the technical skill. And if they had to try and replace you, it would be an extremely difficult thing for them to do. So obviously with this will come with the job, and you will start to have more stress, burnout, and pressure. And I need to talk about how you can manage this, because often this will then spill over into your personal life. And usually what conventional thinking will tell you is that this will spill over into your work life, but in development that is not the case. It usually spills over into your personal life and can have adverse effects on relationships and family, etc. So to talk about this and how this can be managed in a better way, so that's like time management is what we'll talk about, and also just stress management as well, and handling those sorts of scenarios. The other thing I want to talk about is relevance. So how relevant you are in the market. And this is mostly going to be about identifying trends. And as you now are in a certain role at some stage in your career, you might find that you eventually will enter a comfort zone. And those comfort zones obviously end up with you working on one project or whatever that may be, or working on a certain tech stack. So you become extremely comfortable with that. And let's say now, for example, you're on now 10 years on a project or at a company, eventually you will become irrelevant because the industry here is still moving up and forward, and you will then eventually just not have the skills to be able to continue. So what I want to talk about here is how to stay relevant without it affecting your personal life too much, because there is really just so many things to learn in development that it can be really hard to keep up with everything. So part of that is going to be identifying trends, identifying the sorts of software and technologies you want to learn and why you should learn them, instead of just learning technologies which are potentially not going to be relevant. So just going for things which make sense. And learning enough of it so that it doesn't start to become a thing in your personal life or affect your work life as well. So those are things I want to talk about and just elaborate on what you can do to continue learning without having too many downsides in your personal and work life. So that's obviously an extremely important skill for a developer to have, is to be able to identify those trends. So it's going to be really important, I think, especially if I'm going to continue to add that sort of content. So now I just want to talk about the options we have here of what I can do. So I've got one where I can go ahead and I can create one game dev video per week and one alternative for the actual other development stuff. And hopefully we'll try and create something relevant to game dev so that this isn't completely out of line. So this could be things like APIs, which you could use in your games, etc., that we could create here, and maybe even tools for game development to make things faster. So we could look at that sort of thing. Or alternatively, I could take the generalist programmer franchise and divide it up into multiple channels. It could be general development, game development here, could be software as a service here, and whatever else I want to do here, maybe electronics. And it's really up to the subscribers to try and tell me what they think will work. And really like your opinion in the comments. Tell me what you think will work best and what you are interested in seeing and what sort of content would be useful to you. So I'm going to now end this video here because that's all I really wanted to talk about. And please do leave comments below and just tell me what you think and what you think I can do to just get that growth that I need while still giving you decent value as well on the channel with decent content. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.